Lovely. We like a bit of the clap. Anyway, welcome to the Chelsea Football Fancast. I'm Stamford Chidge, and this is the Daddy of Chelsea podcasts, fueled by Guinness and powered by celery. Now, if you're watching us for the first time on Sports Tonight, it's basically a window on the world of Chelsea supporters, like Wayne's World, with less hair and no scousers. And if you're not watching, you could be listening live on Mixlr, mixlr.com/Chelsea-fancast on your computer or your iPhone app. And if you're not listening or watching live, then you might have downloaded this in 2 days' time from iTunes as a podcast. Confused? You will be. Now, Saturday against Spurs was most definitely a game of two halves, and I agree with Jose that Spurs were the better team than us in the first half, but not by much. And we pretty much battered them in the second half and should have won the game. But then we hadn't factored in that Burke Mike Dean, who ruined what looked likely to be a cracking finish by sending off Torres. A disgraceful decision in my view. But when all is said and done, a point off a rival away from home is no disgrace, and that second half performance was one of our best of the season, largely due to the introduction of Juan Mata. The Chelsea Football Fancast, done by Dean. Now, joining me on the show tonight, we have the effervescent Darren Mantle.
Good evening.
How are you?
I'm very happy because you told off Jonathan Kidd before me. I'm always the first one to get told off, and it was our guest this week, so...
Yeah, just to prove I'm nothing, if nothing but a Democrat at heart, really, Darren, but there you go. I
was dribbling on a bit, though, wasn't I? So,
you are old, though. I expect you to dribble. It's
true.
Lovely to see Ross.
I'm the oldest here.
Evening, Chidge.
It's going to be one of those nights tonight.
It is. I'm glad we can say Burke, by the way.
We can. Burke is not on the banned list. You see, I'm going to show people the banned list. We're not allowed to say any of these, and I know you can't see it.
It's like a blank sheet of paper.
It does. It's not a blank sheet of paper, I assure you.
It depends on the spelling of Burke, of course, doesn't it?
Yes.
If it's B-U-R-K-E, it's completely fine.
As you're an actor,
Yeah.
I wonder if we could say Burke off.
We could.
That would be
very
quite
clever,
good,
as
wouldn't
in Stephen Burke.
Exactly.
Very clever, yeah.
Enough. Good to see Ross on the show.
He did a
Shush! Great to see Pablo on the show.
Hello, Chidge, you're right.
I'm all right, and that's why I put you next to our special guest tonight. If you didn't know already, we have in the form of Jonathan Kidd, in fact, who is, if you couldn't figure it out already, an actor. He's not an actor.
Excuse me.
He's not an actor. He's an actor.
I'm not. I'm an actor.
Okay, fine. But you are also a voice-over artiste.
Apparently.
Extraordinaire.
Well, that's very sweet of you to put.
I've written that in the script. But most important of all...
I do a few voices.
I know, we're going to do some of those.
I do.
The most important thing of all is that you are a lifelong Chelsea supporter.
Since the womb, in fact. Since
the
my mum
womb.
went to watch me. Pregnant.
I bet you somewhere... There's a football ground somewhere in the world that is called the Womb.
Yeah, I'd like to have been there.
Yeah, I think we all would.
Yeah. But
anyway,
it would be Hawum or something. Yeah.
We have to be more disciplined on this show.
We have to be very disciplined.
It's not like the old podcast days.
Why am I here then?
Well, because I like taking a risk.
Okay.
It's the kind of guy I am.
Yeah.
Now, talking of taking a risk, we've got our lovely people on the benches in the studio this week. Benches, do your job.
Hi, Chelsea.
Is that it?
Chelsea.
Come on,
Chelsea.
louder.
Chelsea.
God almighty, you're like the away support in Swindon last week. What's going on?
Wake up, Harry.
I know.
Fulham away support.
Now, you may have noticed that there is a very beautiful, glamorous and lovely presence on the benches this week. That's because we've now stationed Lauren on the benches to keep that rabble in order. Haven't we, Loza?
I'm going to give it a go.
You're going to give it a go?
Right.
Are you going to give them a firm hand when necessary?
Yeah.
Good. You have my complete authority so to do. Now, if you want to join Lauren and the Chadmeister on the benches, and if Gary and Harry are not here, but I think they basically they're a fixture, I think is what we could say in football terms. But all you have to do is to email us at chelseafancast@gmail.com, and you too could sit on the benches and make me happy. Now, we will be discussing the draw against Spurs, the win against Swindon, and all the important football stuff, like why the Spurs team is so ugly they should be made to play with bags on their heads. Oh yes. Now, we'll also be awarding our matchday awards, the fannies for the Spurs game, for man of the match, chant of the match, Guinness. Jonathan, you're not being paid by the word. Don't panic. Guinness and celery moments. Get your nominations in to Lauren, of course, for all of those on Twitter at Chelsea Fancast, using the hashtag Chelsea FanCast. Very simple. Of course, you can also do that on the live chat page at mixlr.com/Chelsea-FanCast. Now, later on, you can ask any one of us a question in If You Don't Ask, You Don't Get, on football or anything. We don't care. Get those into Lauren as well. And you can do this via Skype these days. And if you want to do that, you can let us know during the week by emailing chelseafancast@gmail.com, or you can add us as a contact on Skype, chelsea.fancast. Get in touch now. And of course, to wrap up, we'll have some fantastic stats from the Chad Meister and all of the latest Chelsea supporter-related news. But before all of that, it is time for the big match review. Okay, I'm informed. Actually, David Coleman's on the line. No, Darren's got a problem.
No, I've seen you crossed it out in there. You did have.
Yeah. Don't, no.
I was going to keep it quiet. You
Yes,
asked.
I know. Well, I didn't know you were going to Norse me up with my inability to delete things from last week's script, Darren. For God's sake. Anyway, right. Summary. Really, game of two halves. Chelsea played a lot of possession football in the first half, but had no real cutting edge. I thought tempo was a bit too slow. Defensive midfielders not picking up our runners, which created a sloppy goal. Spurs were edging it, but the second half, Mata comes on for Mikel. The tempo quickens. Quick, incisive balls out wide. Much more threatening. Great captain's goal. And of course, we looked like the only winners until Dean sent Torres off. But on balance, I think we deserved a win, but a draw is probably arguably a fair result. But let's have a look at the team first before we do anything. This is who started. We had Cech, Branner, Luiz, captain, leader, legend JT, Ashley Cole, Mikel, Lampard, Ramirez, Oscar, Hazard and Torres. So Torres got a start, no matter, which we were kind of not surprised by. But I thought when I looked at that, I thought solid enough team to go and get a win at Tottenham, Darren.
Yeah, I agree. Like I said, I think Mikel should play for away games, and it was. I think he did pick the right team. I suppose Ramirez did as well. So, yeah.
I was surprised to see Ramirez get on, actually, because he was injured against Swindon, wasn't he, Ross?
Yeah, when I saw the team sheet, my first instinct was he was trying 4-3-3 again, sticking Ramirez in midfield, an extra man in midfield, but it wasn't to be. It was a perfectly acceptable lineup, I think.
As we know, it's a bit of a misleading team sheet. Is once we get onto the second half, which is where we actually kind of played football, comes in. So I mean, like it was arguably the right team, but it didn't perform well in the first half.
I've kind of given up figuring out what formation he plays. Really, I never seem to know anymore.
I still think he's trying things out. I'm
Yeah.
not convinced he knows what the best team is yet.
Well, I think he's learning now.
I think you are, but he's come to the same conclusion that we ended up with last year, which is that all three together, Mata, Hazard, and Oscar, works better than anything else.
Yeah. Shall we have a look at the old match stats? Because otherwise, if we don't do the match stats, Cheddar will go home sulking. We can't have that. But amazingly enough, it was 1-1. They just about battered us by one shot. I mean, 12 shots to 11 total shots. I mean, what you have to say there, I think, my overriding thing there is that actually that's very even, and considering that we were the away side and how hotly Tottenham are raced at the moment, I think that shows how well we did.
Do you know what stands out in it? Sorry.
Yeah, there is, and I'm going to do a gag about it, so shut up. I think what you're about to mention, Pablo, is that the amazing stat there is that we had 10 offsides. Isn't that right? Now, Chad, is that a record for Chelsea offsides when Barr isn't playing?
Must be, I think. I think Barr has about 5 in one game earlier in the season, so I'll check it out for you for next week.
Yeah, so I thought I'd stump you with that one.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you. Sorry, Pablo, but I had to reclaim that as my one gag of the part. You know what I'm like. Now, listen, I think the real thing is that whole match for me was. I think you could arguably say it was about Mata and Torres. Let's do Torres first. But actually, the biggest issue for me was the sending off. I mean, Pablo, did you think it changed the game?
Yeah, absolutely.
And you were there. What was the atmosphere like when that happened?
Well, no one really knew exactly
Why?
what he went off for. I mean, it looked to us like there was quite a severe clash of heads between the two of them. As it turns out, there was nothing.
It did
at
in
all,
real
but-
time on
yeah.
the telly, actually.
And
to be
also,
fair.
it seemed that the referee blew his whistle marginally before there was any kind of contact as well. So we were kind of debating as to whether or not there was something before the clash that happened. Or
He thought he was deliberately hitting him in the face before it even happened, Dean.
Yeah.
But there wasn't any contact earlier, even when he fell over for Torres.
Well, I mean,
minimal contact. That's why Torres had a go at him, because he dived.
I
the
think
first time.
Vertonghen was an absolute Burke,
idiot.
because I can't think of anything that I'm allowed to say that really.
B-U-R-K.
I think everybody knows out there in Chelsea Fancast land what I really would think of Vertonghen, but I can't really say it.
Now,
But
can
I
I
think
just
they
say
know.
he's actually one of the prettier players. for
Well, we'll get
Spurs.
onto that later.
But I just wanted to
will.
throw that in. I thought you were being very unfair.
Okay.
Completely. But he, despite being
That's a fair point, actually, Jonathan.
yeah, a diver.
Lauren, on the benches, what's the general feeling in Twitter and Mixler land? Did Torres? I mean, did it change the game for everybody? I think it probably did, didn't it?
Yeah, personally, I think it did. But Dan, the CFC man, has said CFC would have got a winner if Torres remained on the field. Diana said, yeah, it changed the game for sure, but it definitely shouldn't have happened. And Johnny T has said, if Torres wouldn't have sent off, we would have nicked it.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the general feeling around the table. I think everybody would agree with that.
Apparently, he was going to bring Eto'o on at the same time. I don't think he was going to take off. He was about to bring Eto'o
Really?
on. Yeah, that was.
But we were going for the jugular.
Yeah.
I mean, the amount of chances
We were all over
creating.
them.
I know we were battering them.
Absolutely.
Now, here's just to throw this round. I mean, just before we go to a break, so I would like to carry all of this on because I think there's quite a lot to talk about this. But the other thing is, did Vertonghen get him sent off? And actually, could he really have been? I mean, there's been so much debate today about the fact that. He could have been sent off for the scratching. I mean, do you think that's fair enough, Darren?
Yeah, I mean, it was stupid. You don't raise your hands. And that was the thing, like you say about him being a diver. He could have gone down when Torres raised his hand to his face, like Robin did with Reina a few years ago.
I mean, when Torres scratched Vertonghen, he got booked for that trip.
Yeah.
First half.
No, that's what I'm saying.
Second
That's what I'm
half.
saying.
The non-trip.
When he did that, though, if Vertonghen had gone down, Torres could have got in more trouble. I know it's right by the line, though, but you don't raise your hands. I don't really think the scratch matters, the fact that he raised his hands.
We're going to talk. I think actually let's pick this up after the break because there's so much to talk about on this Torres incident. I think it would not do it justice to wrap that up now. So we will be joining you again in a few minutes' time to continue the discussion about Torres.